All right, good morning. Good to see everybody. Got any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything you got.
Chuck, have there been any even minor physical injury concerns so far? It seems like it's been pretty clean.
Yeah, knock on wood, so I wish you wouldn't have brought it up.
I waited 2 days.
Something happens, then, Avis will be instructed not to let you back in the gate. So, no, it's been good, and I think, obviously the guys, when you come in shape and you've done what you're supposed to do, in the off season, then, that's a byproduct of it.
Chuck, along those lines, a couple guys, and I think Brian said everybody passed a conditioning test. Is there a concerted difference between the conditioning level of guys coming in this year versus other years, or was it very different?
Yeah, no, we challenged, everybody, especially the guys that have a tendency. Guys that we got some guys that can, look at a donut and put 5 pounds on, and don't even have to consume it. So we challenge guys, and again, everybody understands, the job that needs to get done and the level that they need to play at. And the only way you can come out here, we strain them mentally enough with X's and O's, but physically they got to be in great shape, and they did what they were supposed to do.
Hey Chuck, obviously Andrew put up incredible passing numbers last year throughout his career. How much easier does it get when you have a guy like Frank? I'm not trying to discredit what he's done, but it seems like the game will be so much easier when you have a stable running back like that.
Yeah, we always talk about, protecting 12 and protecting the quarterback and trying to affect, the opponent's quarterback. So anytime you've got a really good running game, then that's another way to protect the quarterback. You hand the ball off, and you're getting 4 and 5 yards a clip. You average 4.5 at the end of the year. You're doing pretty good. And so that's always the goal, and that's our mindset, and that's something that obviously we have to develop in this camp.
How impressive does Frank look so far through the first couple? I
know looks great.
No pads, but
you guys are watching the same stuff I'm watching. He looks great.
What convinced you and Ryan? What convinced you and Ryan that you could still be the same kind of running back at the age of whatever he is, 32, 33?
We just go back and look at what he did to us on a few runs and what he's done to everybody else, Bob. Through the course of his career. Certainly you look at age and number of carries and those type of things, but they did a good job in the last 4 years of managing, his play time and his touches. And so, he stayed relatively healthy, and there wasn't a bunch of carries there. We did the numbers, we crunched all that stuff and took a good look at it. But the tape doesn't lie. He's taking great care of himself. So there was enough there to where, and then the type of player that he is. How he's wired, his competitive nature, all those kind of things.
Coach, is it something about his body too, though, in the way he's low? They talk about that. That he's just able to do things at his age that others, tends to leave him. Again,
when everybody else is in the off season, traveling to the Bahamas or Aruba and going here and going there and getting on boats and doing things like that, that guy's down in Miami grinding. And he takes great care of his body. And you go down to the University of Miami probably and go in the weight room during the off season, during that 6 weeks off, and probably see him in there working out and then on the field running. He's always running. First day he got here, I had to go take him off the bike just so we could sit down and visit and meet. And he's a grinder, but he's got great balance. He's got great vision. He makes great decisions, great reads. And he's very, very, decisive. When he puts a foot in the ground, he gets north and south, and he can jump cut and do all those kind of things. And it doesn't matter, how big that hole is. He's going to get positive yards.
Chuck, I think you guys could have went pads today, right? You elected to wait until tomorrow, which is fine. My question is, that's sort of a calculation, right? Not just putting pads on, but how physical to be. You've kind of maybe erred on the side.
There won't be any. You got the shoulder pads on, yeah. We're in pads.
Okay. Well, but just generally speaking, every coach has...
They just started, the league just mandated that you have to put, a couple years ago, thigh pads and knee pads in, but before that, unless you D lineman and O lineman wore thigh pads and knee pads. So what's the difference whether you got a pair of pants on and nothing's in them or you got pads in them? Now, you got helmets on, you got shoulder pads on, we're going to get after it. We're not going to tackle anybody low, cut anybody, those type of things. But we're in pads today, so just because it's helmets and shoulder pads, don't misconstrue that we're not getting after each other today.
Well, actually, here's my question. So my question is kind of this: every coach has to deal with this, where you try to get the team ready, but we've been through these training camp injuries, and you know how that goes. So can you just talk about that decision of knowing when to say when?
There's a fine line, and everybody can go back. You look at the numbers, you do all the data, and you compile research over 5-10 year period, and you say, okay, day 3 is a day where guys are fatigued, and these are where soft tissue injuries show up. So we'll do what we have to do, and we'll be smart with how we practice, the amount of reps, all those type of things. Physical standpoint, the only way I know you can build a mentally and physically tough team is you got to practice, and you got to put the pads on, and you got to work at it. And if you don't do that, you're not going to show up on Sunday and just flip a switch and be a tough, nasty, physical football team.
You just can't do it too much because of injuries, right? So, yeah, that we'll still worry about.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's enabled Vontae's career to take off as it has the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think it's a process for everybody. And I think just from a maturity standpoint and becoming a good pro and understanding what it takes, during the season, during the off season, putting the time in the playbook, understanding the scheme, development of your fundamentals and your techniques. But really, it's just a maturation process.
Good time to be him. Contract, Pro Bowl, just got married.
It's good life.
Yeah.
What else would you rather be doing, right? He's taking full advantage of it. He's got it, but again, what he's done in the past means zero. What we've done in the past means zero. We're judged on a daily basis, and he's no different. And he's got to play at a high level.
What is the next step for him, Chuck? Because he's already sort of reached the point where they don't challenge him nearly as much, or maybe not as much as he even wants. Is there another level that you need to get out of him?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be able to do whatever we want to do with him. And so if that means putting him on somebody's best wide receiver instead of just playing one side of the football, then maybe that's the next progression. We'll see. And then, we got to pick and choose how we're going to, defend people and stop people and identify their game records and the guys that, that are going to make plays and those type of things. But, he's going to grow. He's going to continue to grow from a physical standpoint, knowing the opponent. Once you get our scheme down and you're not thinking out there, you can spend a ton of time, studying your opponent and the guys that he's going to go up against.
With Andre, you go back a long way to Miami with him, coached against him. Have you seen anything OTAs and now that surprises you, or is this what you know about Andre Johnson?
He's the same guy, just a better version. And he's, from day one, from recruiting him, and then when he came to the University of Miami as a freshman till now, he's a tireless worker. He doesn't say anything. He does his job. He's where he's supposed to be. He's very trustworthy, accountable, a great teammate. He's a guy that, guys can look to and say, okay, if I'm a young receiver, I'm going to get in his hip pocket, and whatever he does, I'm doing. Because everything, exactly. Just does everything the right way. Plus, he's got a ton of talent.
Getting back to Gore for a second, people in San Francisco talk a lot about his pass blocking ability. Is that something you just are born with? You learn? What makes him good at blocking on the passing game?
Well, you have to have the mental aptitude to understand protections. You're going to get a bunch of exotic blitzes nowadays. You guys see that. People are going to challenge your protections, on every third down situation. And so from a mental standpoint, he's got the football IQ and the aptitude to understand that and get on the right people. And then from a physical standpoint, he's a tough guy. And he's got the strength and the ability to, whether it's double A gap pressure and you got a big Mike linebacker or whatever coming up the B gap, or cutting a defensive end on the edge. He's got all those qualities, that are necessary to be able to be not only a first and second down back, but a third down back. And nowadays, today's football, as many times as you're throwing the football, especially on third down. You gotta be able to protect, and he does a great job of it.
Coach, you're talking about getting after it in practice. It seems like there's been spirited competition so far between the offense and the defense. Have you been happy with what you've seen so far?
Absolutely, and they're taking care of one another. They know that you can't cross the line. I mean, we go back to injuries. We're talking about that stuff. We're going to be very, very competitive, but we don't want to be combative. You can't cross the line with it. You've got to take care of each other, especially when we're rushing the passer and we're doing the blitzes and they're trying to do protections. And you got to stay away, obviously, from the quarterback. And idea is to come out of this thing healthy. You got to compete. You got to challenge one another. It makes you better on both sides of the ball. It's the only way you can prepare yourself for the season.
When the offense does push-ups, does that drop pass turnover?
Individually?
Right. Like there are a couple days where
we talk about competing, so we've made periods competitive. So if we got a 10-play period and it's a third down period, whoever wins a period, the other unit might have to run a half gasser. Guys might have to do push-ups. Guys have mandated in their own rooms, like defensive backs, if they drop an easy interception, they'll drop down and it's kind of what they do in their own rooms. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks, Coach.